So how many people here are inflicted with the problem of not having a business idea and wanting to start a business? Raise your hands high. Okay, so quite a few. How many people have a business idea but just haven't taken, the steps to get it going? Okay, so those are usually the two camps that people fall in. Some people have an idea, don't like it, looking for a better one maybe. But anyway, this guy gave me some pearls of wisdom, Rick Farr did, in this class. And he said, the way to come up with a business idea is to look around and see if you can see a place where people are experiencing pain and come up with a way to solve that pain. So I thought, hey, that's not hard to do. Maybe you're driving down the road, and I'm just thinking off the cuff here, maybe you're driving down the road and you see those like pylons in the road that are like falling over and all messed up, and maybe you can find a way to easily anchor them into the concrete and go out and sell it to some big construction company, who knows. So like just look around, like look for areas where you see consumer pain. And so the first thing that came to mind, again, I was just back off the boat for my mission, and I thought, okay, where have I felt pain? And I thought, 3 weeks I waited to get letters when I was on my mission. I had to wait 3 weeks to find out my girlfriend had got married. Literally married. I didn't know until she'd been married. Useful news. And so anyway, I got back, and so I thought, okay, that's somewhere where maybe I can solve some pain. And so I went up to the pouch mail department, and I asked them, why does it take 3 weeks to get letters out to missionaries? And they said, well, let me explain the process. So let's say somebody in Florida writes a letter. Well, it comes to the church office building, and we take that letter, and if it gets to us by Thursday, then it will go out the next Tuesday in a kind of a FedEx type package to the mission. And so I'm like, so if somebody writes a letter on Monday, it gets there on Friday, then it doesn't go out that next Thursday, or that next Tuesday, it goes out the Tuesday after. So anyway, it was taking like 2 weeks before the letter even left the United States. And it kind of blew me away. And so I'm like, why do you guys take so long to get these letters out? And they're like, well, we don't have a very good way of collating these letters. And so we have to manually put these letters in all these bins by mission, and then go through and make sure nobody screwed up and get the letters out. And so it's just this really arduous process. So I said, well, what if we built a website where people could go to the website and write a letter to a missionary online? We'd take it, print it off, of course, in alphabetical order. So all they had to do was, we could even put rubber bands around the missions, make it super easy. And they said, well, yeah, I think that sounds good. So instead of Thursday being the cutoff time, the pouch department let us bring our letters in on Monday. So if somebody wrote a letter on Sunday, on Monday the letter would get to the pouch mail department, and on Tuesday it would get FedExed out to the mission. So we instantly shaved like a week and a half, 2 weeks off the letters getting to the missionaries. And so anyway, brilliant idea, right? So the only problem was I had no money. I didn't have a clue how to build a website. And the business model was that the letters would be free, which presented a little bit of a problem. So anyway, I had these obstacles, so I'll kind of go through how I overcame these obstacles. So the first obstacle, which is I had no money, I had a sister that had money. Perfect, right? So I called her up and I said, hey, Deb, I'll give you $1,000, or you give me $1,000 and I'll give you 10% ownership in the business. And she thought about it for a few seconds and then promptly came back and said she had absolutely no interest in making an investment and that she would prefer to be paid back in full with interest. And so I took that option and got the $1,000. So now I was rolling in the dough, right? $1,000, you can do anything with $1,000. So that was the first problem. So I took the $1,000 and set out to try to solve the second problem with that money, which was I didn't know how to build a website and had to figure that out. And so the first thing I did is I went and I bought this software program up at Barnes & Noble called Visual Studio, which at the time helped you build a piece of computer software for a computer, not for the web. And that was $400. And so I bought the book and the software and started reading it, and I got about 2/3 of the way through it, and I realized, yeah, I can't build a website with this. And so there went like half my financing out the window right away. That was depressing. And luckily I found better use, for some of the rest. So the next chunk of money, I went out and I found a brilliant web designer on campus that worked for the Center for Instructional Design. I think it's still called CID, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, I found this programmer, and I told him $300, you know, let's see what you can do. And after $300, he'd eaten into it. All I had was a logo and the most atrocious website I'd ever seen. Just homepage, right? No functionality, no way to submit letters, no way to do any of that. And so that was pretty depressing, and I think I had the realization at that point that there's no way that I was going to be able to, you know, with the remaining $600, launch this website. So at the time I was in, I think it's called ISIS 201, where you have to like learn Excel and HTML and I forgot what else. Front page, maybe it was front page, I don't know. But anyway, so the first day of class for that class, we had the task, and again, this is 2000 now, right? And I was on a mission for 2 years. So the first assignment was to set up a Hotmail email account. And I remember being so intimidated. How in the world, like an email account on the World Wide Web? How do you do that? And anyway, so you can see how big of a like technophobe at the time that I was, and like had no clue how to do any of this. But I was determined to start my business, which sometimes you just have to jump both feet in at the same time, right? So I went out and I asked all the web design companies in the area if they'd give me a job, and I was systematically rejected by every single one. And so I went further in my radius, and I finally got to Alpine, and I found a guy that was crazy enough to hire me. I built a little program in that Visual Basic, and which basically you push a button and it says, "Hey, dude," or something like that. And he was impressed. And so anyway, he hired me, and he paid me $10 an hour, so I worked for him for 4 months. And learned how to do server-side scripting and build websites, interactive websites that would integrate with databases on a server. So I spent about probably 12 months just going nuts on this website and just doing all these little things, and didn't really know what I was doing, but figured out how to do it on the way. And again, I'm not like extremely technical. I B+ student. On a good day, maybe you'd say I had a barely higher than average ACT score. And I figured out how to do this and build this site. And so anyway, I got the business up and running. Okay, I had a website, and you know the next problem that I had is I had to figure out how to get traffic to the website. And so I went up to BYU to the computer lab, and I took $30 of this precious $1,000 that I had to start the business with, and I decided to print up all these handbills. And so I had like 1,000 pages with cut in quadrants, and started handing those out. And people at the computer lab, they're sitting there on the internet, right? So I'd slap down a handbill and it'd say, DearElder.com, writing your missionary just got easier. And just the inspiration of the design, I just pushed people to the website, and we started to see letters coming in. So we went back, and we'd start to see like letter from Provo, and pretty cool, this is awesome, people are using it. And then all of a sudden we saw Texas, Florida, New York, and all these places, and we're like, we're not passing out flyers in those areas. And so we realized that word of mouth was really pushing the site by itself, which was a fantastic, milestone for us to see that. And then we promptly got a call from BYU asking us to no longer pass out handbills in the computer labs. And so we decided that, hey, okay, let's go to the parking lot. So we started putting handbills all over the cars in all the parking lots, and then got, again, systematically denied on doing that, and they asked us never to do that again. And so we thought, okay, what's the next move? So we got, and we used the remaining money to print 2 vinyl signs that said, DearElder.com, these 10-foot by 2-foot signs, and we smuggled them into the BYU football games. And whenever BYU would score, we'd open up the vinyl sign and shake it violently up in the crowd. So essentially, we had like 65,000 people watching us, awkwardly shake these vinyl signs. And we ended up getting a ton of traffic to the site, so we started seeing like 100 letters a week, 200 letters a week, 300 letters a week. This is no Facebook, mind you, but for us, it was pretty exciting to see this growth. And so and I'm totally forgetting the slides now, so we're like 6 slides late, but that's all right. So anyway, the problem that I had at this point is I was remembering back to Rick Farr's class. And he said, okay, the way to come up with a business idea is find somewhere where consumers are feeling pain and find a way to solve that pain. And do it in a profitable way. I completely disregarded the last part of that statement. And I realized that I was paying for I wanted the service to be free. Come on, they're missionaries, right? We got to get them letters. So we were paying for the paper and the toner, and you know, whoops. So you're paying, you know, I went out and bought a $39 Lexmark printer. I bought some paper, and I was at the Glenwood, and I couldn't afford to pay anybody to stuff all these letters in envelopes. So we had, I was Elders Quorum president, so I had a ward activity every Wednesday night, and we bought pizza, and we stuffed the letters. And so anyway, you could tell this model's not very sustainable as the letter volume continued to increase. I thought maybe if I got promoted to bishop or something like that, you know, maybe I'd have a little more leeway. We get the Relief Society involved. But anyway, so not a sustainable model. And running out of money very quickly. And so we started selling advertisements on the website. And anyway, so I'd sell these $50 banner ads on the top of the website. And I just could not get people to buy them. I think I had like 3 companies. So I was making like $150 a month on the site. And getting married at the same time. Yes, I did have one night of my honeymoon in the Motel 6. And I'm proud of that. So anyway, so I decided, well, hey, you know, I'm having such a hard time at $50. Maybe if I up the price on the advertising, I'd sell more ads. And so I decided to start selling the ads for $500. And then I even got up to $1,000 per ad. And it was way easier to sell them at a higher price because nobody wants to mess around with $50 a month for an ad. So the perceived value of the ad increased as I increased the price, and I ended up making a little bit more money and still coming nowhere near paying for the paper and the envelopes and so forth. And so I was at BYU at the time, like I was mentioning, and I was formerly the Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology was the Center for Entrepreneurship before it merged with the Rollins Center for E-Business, I think is what it was. And they had this program where they'd give you a half-tuition scholarship if you would come in and if you'd spend 40 hours a week running your business and get some mentoring. And I thought the tuition was a sweet deal, but it ended up being that the mentoring was worth, you know, I can't even quantify it, thousands of times more to me than what the tuition scholarship was. I got hooked up with this guy named Steve Gibson, and I came in and I'm like, I got this little problem, I got this sweet business going. I'm printing tons of letters every week and making absolutely nothing, and I just had my honeymoon in the Motel 6. And he just hung his head down and said, oh, come on, man, we need to get this figured out. So he's like, why don't you go buy some cookies, put them in a box, and sell care packages on the site? Not a bad idea, right? So I went down to Sam's Club, and have you guys ever had Sam's Club cookies? Pretty sweet, huh? Tasty. And so I saw even more tasty was the price. It was $2 for 12 cookies, approximately. And so I went and I bought a little package of cookies, and I put them in a box, and I threw in some styrofoam and put a Dear Elder sticker on it, and started selling these for $30 per box. And they started going like hotcakes. And so anyway, the site ended up making money, and it's still around today, which is a miracle. I didn't think it ever would survive this long. Oh, I have this. I forgot. And so once we had some money coming in, we could have a little more fun with our advertisements. So we already talked about free articles. Oh, no, we didn't. So we started hitting up Daily Universe for free articles. That did some good stuff. Word of mouth was huge. We printed flyers at BYU. We talked about that. We also sponsored the mouse pads in the computer labs, which worked great. And then we ended up sticking a billboard up as well. And then last, we did some like really low-budget TV commercials, which I have one here to show you. Right after this slide, which basically shows our letter volume. We've done over 2 million letters to missionaries now, absolutely free, subsidized by our Sam's Club cookies. And here's the commercial. And you may see someone here that looks familiar, otherwise known as Napoleon.
Sorry, DearElder.com. Writing your missionary just got easier. This one's from your sister. She's awesome.
So we'd run that during conference and just get crazy amounts of traffic to the site. So that was a lot of fun.